Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. Guys, I hope everyone is doing okay today. Let's see, I'm checking my sound. If you dig what I'm putting down, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. Of course, you can always support through Patreon or Super Chat. I have a lot of newbies, so welcome to the show. Far to the left, apolitical from the standpoint of parties, hate parties, and the show is based on humanistic values to the degree that I can apply those to the political world with this kind of mix of politics, philosophy, and all that other good stuff in history. Now, the big news of the day: President of the United States meets a dictator. Let's take a look at a little bit of the footage.
باراك أوباما ينزل الآن درجات السلم فيما تطلق المدفعية 21 طلقة ترحيبا بفخامته. في هذه اللحظات يصافح خادم الحرمين الشريفين ويعانق الرئيس الأمريكي باراك أوباما.
My bad. It's the wrong dictator and the wrong president. My bad. The dictator that was met today was this one, Donald Trump, in a historic meeting with Kim Jong to forward the peace process. Come on.
President, what surprised you the most about Chairman Kim?
Great personality and very smart. Good combination. Really,
is he a worthy negotiator?
Really, he's a worthy negotiator. He's negotiating on behalf of his people. A very worthy, very smart negotiator, absolutely. And we had a terrific day, and we learned a lot about each other and about our countries. So.
What did you learn about him?
This is a good thing. This is a very good thing. Not a fan of Trump. Never made that a secret. But despite not being a fan of Trump, I am a fan of pushing forward the peace process. And whatever people want to say, this pushes forward the peace process. You have Democrats who've hated this for the same reason that Republicans hated the Iran deal. You've had reporters who've hated this for odd reasons, even though they were perfectly okay with Obama meeting with Saudi Arabia, meeting with the brutal regime in Israel, meeting with the brutal regime in other countries like Bahrain and some of these other countries where they have terrorists, or brutal dictators. Obama meeting with the head choppers and hand choppers in Saudi Arabia, no issue. None whatsoever. This is John Kerry meeting with Bahrain's king, again, brutal dictator. I'm not going to say he's brutal, but a dictator. Obama meeting with Erdogan, for all intents and purposes, another dictator that was planning a false flag attack in Syria. Hillary Clinton doing regime change in Honduras and lying about it on the campaign stage when she was asked about it. Iran foils potential terrorist attack for 27 plotters. Guess where those 27 plotters came from? Saudi fucking Arabia. The same place that Obama was landing in the raw footage, talking to, shaking their hands, and giving that brutal regime that's murdering Yemenis and starving Yemenis weapons. But Donald Trump is the bad guy for meeting with Kim Jong-un. Nonsense! This is utter hypocrisy. People like Joanne Reed and Rachel Maddow, no issue whatsoever at Obama meeting and shaking hands with these guys who are chopping off hands and chopping off heads. None whatsoever with them meeting with all these dictators all around the world because it's Obama. Donald Trump does it. Heads explode. And the first thing that you hear, he's a dictator, he's a dictator, he's a dictator. How bad he is to his people. He's horrible to his people. Do you know that Hillary Clinton took money from Saudi Arabia for the Clinton Foundation? And in the WikiLeaks notes, despite taking money, she knows and even noted and mentions that these guys are supporting terrorism all throughout the world. Terrorism, such as what was going to take place in Iran if these guys were able to get or push through their plans. Donald Trump is meeting with the head of a horrific regime. I wouldn't necessarily want to live in North Korea. I would imagine that no one under the sound of my voice would want to live in North Korea. But there is a stark difference between living under North Korea versus a war, potentially, with further conflict and potential conflict with that nation. Between the two things of saying, I don't live there, I don't necessarily want to live there, I think it's a brutal dictatorship and a regime, but I don't necessarily want to have a war with him, and if we can forward the peace process, that peace process may lead to other opportunities for the people of that particular country and that particular nation, as opposed to the blunt state gov, if you don't do what we say, then we shouldn't talk to you. Hey, the guy who's talking to these brutal dictators in Saudi Arabia and who's perfectly okay with dealing with Erdogan and dealing with the other dictators around the globe, especially when it suited our interests, who was against Obama, the Arab Spring, and was for the dictatorship in Egypt. That guy on the campaign stage was very clear about saying that he would talk to the leader of North Korea and he would talk to some of these other places that they call regimes, their governments, but these other governments. He had no issue with it. But it's Trump. And we all hate Trump. And so anything that Trump does by extension is a bad thing. These people are grossly and profoundly unpatriotic. At the end of the day, if you stand for humanistic and humanitarian values, if you have the potential to move the peace process forward, a year prior, Donald Trump was on screaming into a mic in the UN, calling the leader of another country Rocket Man. Mind you, this is pretty amazing, seeing as Donald Trump had been murdering people en masse 4 times more than Obama was with drones, and hiding it in the CIA so nobody knows the number of people that Donald Trump was murdering. But nevertheless, calls him Rocket Man. Obama killed thousands with drones. And for whatever reason, regardless of how much blood he soaked in with his suits, nobody cares. Nobody cares. Blood soaked, hands dripping with blood as he grabs the mic to sing America the Beautiful or Amazing Grace. But nobody cares about that. We only care about the things that take place in other nations. I, for one, am on the side of peace. And if Donald Trump, as a reality show host as he is, as blood-drenched as his hands are, as over-the-top and belligerent as he is, if Donald fucking Trump has the capacity to tamp down on the back and forth, the conflict, then I support him full-throatedly on this very specific issue. I support him. I support the peace process. I support less hostilities. And if you can come to some resolution in order to pull down what seemed to be taking place as this kind of escalation, then that's a good thing. That is an utterly good thing. This is the garbage Washington Post. Winners and losers from the summit. I'm glad that's the way they put it. Winners and losers. Because that's what it all boils down to. Winners and losers. President Donald Trump and North Korea leader Kim Jong-un met in Singapore and signed what Trump called a document in which North Korea agreed to move towards ending its nuclear program to the United States and would halt joint military exercises in North Korea. Here's the thing that most media outlets don't particularly talk about. Part of the reason that North Korea has such a bee in his bonnet and would launch all those missiles wasn't because the missiles themselves were the provocation. What they considered to be the provocation was the joint military exercises between the United States and South Korea on their border, pretending to invade their country. Imagine for the moment if I was your neighbor and every so often I would come out the house and I would overtly threaten you and wave my weapons around and essentially give some level of indication that I was going to kick down your door and shoot a bunch of people in the face. Pretend for the moment that I had already did this. Pretend for the moment I already did this. What would your response be to such a thing? Now, we killed 1/5 of their population in the last war. We bombed so much that there was nothing else to bomb, so we just bombed the spots that we had already bombed. And we are still on that border, and that war is not over with. How on earth would you, if you were a North Korean autocrat dictator who only really cared about making sure your station in life was secured, how would you respond to your neighbor colliding or interacting with what you consider to be the great Satan of sorts, doing that on your border? And would you have any just cause at all to have some feelings about that? And what would your response be to such a thing? I understand that the people in the society itself are not in the best of situations. I get it. There's a lot of people who are around the world who we support who are not in the best of situations. We support dictators all over the planet and have no issue supporting those dictators. But this guy, for whatever reason, this guy is the issue. They've decided to move forward with a peace process. Anybody who's on the side of peace, I would ask you to go beyond your own political meanderings. This idea of I'm a Democrat, so anything that Trump does by extension is bad. Or I don't like Trump, so anything that Trump does by extension is bad. I would ask you to go beyond that for the moment and look at this from the standpoint of being a goddamn human being, and being a goddamn human being that cares more about the fact that there is no military solution to North Korea, and that any solution to North Korea is going to have to deal with some level of negotiation and some level of a meeting of the minds. That there is no such thing as peace without some level of justice, and there is no way you're going to have all of you and none of them. Meaning any process that you go that tries to tamp down on the confusion, it's going to be to some degree a compromise and a process. Democrats tried to hit this in the knees before it even started by having all of this ridiculous demands, talking about giving up your nuclear weapons and all this other stuff. They may at some point do that, but it would be insane to do that under the situation to which we have. We have a maniac, John Bolton, talking about once they give up their weapons, you're going to topple their country. All of these groups, Democrats, try to hit it in the knees. You had the intelligence community releasing information talking about these guys were not going to get rid of their weapons, but instead they was going to open up McDonald's or something insane. I'm making the point that this goes beyond just disliking Trump. This goes beyond your petty Democrat Republican nonsense. This is literally our nation facing the world with a potential for peace. That is rare. I'm sorry. Obama signed the nuclear deal with Iran, and you have Republicans doing the exact same thing. I didn't like it when Republicans did it. I don't like it when Democrats are doing it. This goes beyond your petty political grievances. This is a good thing. This is a good thing. Let's take a look at the Washington Post, because there's something specific here that I want to get at. Winners, Trump. Also, I hate the framing of this as winners and losers. Washington Post is trash. You're utter trash. You're nonsense. Winners, Trump. The president set a very high bar for himself, predicting that he would know within the first few minutes whether Kim is serious about denuclearization and even entertaining the prospect of winning a Nobel Peace Prize. He's a reality show host. Yes, he talks that way. If you want to say he's a winner in this, then he's a winner in this. Okay. But so is the United States. So is the United States. Kim Jong-un. Yes, he's a winner in this, if you want to consider it that way. Mike Pompeo. Okay, he's a winner in this. Dennis Rodman. And now they're just being ridiculous. Justin Trudeau. Okay. You know what? I'm not going to do this article. This is stupid. I don't like the framing of this, and this is somewhat of a ridiculous article. They have made an agreement to essentially further the peace process. Kim Jong-un says he will take steps to essentially denuclearize, and Donald Trump will stop the South Korea, the United States and South Korea joint exercises, pretending as if they're going to invade North Korea. That's a good thing. It's a start. Just saying. Alright, I'm not going to keep this one long. I just wanted to highlight it and kind of draw attention to the fact that you have a lot of people who are against this with no other example of progress on this issue. Balthazar, the United States has a history of bombing the shit out of countries, like running out of bombs in Syria. It is simply a repeat of the U.S. military campaign strategy. Supreme Court of the United States ruled Ohio can purge voters. Thoughts? Really, you need to know my thoughts on that? You need to know my thoughts on that? You already know what I think about that. They put a right-winger in the Supreme Court. Nobody in their right mind believes that the Supreme Court is an honest arbiter. Nobody believes that. The whole reason why it matters that you have a Republican or Democratic administration is so you can put the person in that has the slant that you want into that spot. The law is a malleable thing. You look at it and interpret it the way that you want for your own ends. It is nonsense to believe that that's some high bar of ethics where they're mulling over the law about what. Nonsense! They changed the law based on their own political ideologies and the things that their parties want. That's the secret. That's not even a secret at this point. Do you know that during the Obama thing, when the Affordable Care Act was up, that at one point the Affordable Care Act had been struck down? Yes, the Affordable Care Act had been struck down. Roberts changed his mind, and Scalia had went after him insistently before that asshole croaked to try to get him to change it back in order to strike it down. Roberts didn't want to do it because he thought that it would make the Supreme Court look too comically ridiculous. He didn't want to do that again. Do you know that when they put Bush in office, that part of the ruling was that this ruling couldn't be used for any other rulings because they understood that it was a sham? They do their rulings based upon their own political ideologies. It has nothing to do with looking at the law in a fair and honest way. These guys are political hacks, just like politicians are political hacks. And they were put in power in this kind of almost unaccountable way to manage and mold the law. Think about that. They're purging voters. And the Supreme Court says, perfectly okay to do. Perfectly okay to do. It's fucking nonsense. Balthazar 228, the United States has a history of bombing the shit out of countries. It's like running out of bombs in Syria. It's simply a repeat of the U.S. military campaign straits. Balthazar, Bernie introduced a measure to use to mill funds for education in the Middle East countries to avoid wartime atrocities today. It's a really good speech. I'm going to have to check it out. I've heard him make that a speech. Democrats upheld can purge progressives versus who don't vote it. I have a friend of mine that's a Hill bot, one of my best friends. He's a Hillary supporter. And he texted me today, and the only thing he could talk about was Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. And I was like, is this your world? Like, do you know how pathetic it is? That this is what you're living in? I had to essentially tell him, like, dude, you need to move on from this. I enjoy beating up on Hillary supporters. It's like killing a Nazi to me. I don't particularly like them. They were perfectly okay with the cheating Bernie Sanders, but all of a sudden they're screaming at the top of their lungs by them supposedly being cheated. Talking about this fantasy version of Russian collusion. Kind of made the point to him that I consider the Russian collusion book with Donald Trump to be in the same aisle as the Flat Earther books and the People Didn't Land on the Moon books. I think it's nonsense. It's nonsense. And it's nonsense that they use for their own political thing because they can't process a world where Hillary Clinton lost a reality show host. Not to mention they voted for the person that lost a reality show host. I would imagine it's somewhat embarrassing. Balthazar, Hillary Clinton is Peter Dow's world. Hashtag withering. Peter Dow. You're talking about the one with the gay black cat with mixed, Hispanic heritage that has a bad leg that's somewhat transgender. That same Peter Dow. Jamal Thomas, stop ruining our world, Boris. Kristen Zaldivar. If I were in North Korea, I would hang on to those nukes because the second they get rid of them, they would be invaded. The establishment is hell bent on invading. Yeah. Kristen, I agree with you. There is no way I would get rid of those nuclear weapons if I was North Korea. That would be nonsense. Yes, I would say we'd discuss it. I'd say let's further the peace process. I'd say let's have those conversations. I would say all that stuff. Would I get rid of those nuclear weapons? Fuck. No. Fuck no. Here's the thing. Donald Trump is going to leave that meeting, and Donald Trump is going to have a conversation with Kim Jong-un, and whatever they say to each other, both of them are going to leave that meeting trying to get a certain amount of credibility from the meeting and saying what they need to say in order to leave that meeting looking good in the eyes of the world. That's the truth. North Korea, his military advisors, if they're being honest, and if they're just looking at the world the way the world is, there's no fucking way they're going to get rid of those nuclear weapons. I wouldn't at all. I wouldn't bring this shit up. It wouldn't be on the list. We could talk about human rights abuses. We could talk about bringing in a McDonald's. We could talk about all this other stuff. We could talk about closer cooperation with South Korea. All of that is perfectly fine. Me giving up my nukes? Hell no. That is the only reason you haven't been invaded up to this point. You better keep it. Trump is a tool for the deep Zionist state. Louis Guido. For that matter, so was Obama. So was Clinton. And so was the other Democrats and Republicans. Pat Hacker. American can't afford to disarm all their nukes. Shit. We haven't gotten rid of our chemical weapons because we can't afford the cost. Pat, we can afford the cost of getting rid of them. We just don't do it. We want our ace in a hole. Merced Cali. We need Dank Jamal meme t-shirt. Dank Jamal. Dank, that would be hilarious. Mr. Izzy Dizzy shirt. Always check your sound. Fucking 8, man. Fucking 8. That needs to be an awesome t-shirt too. So there's a site that does the t-shirt stuff. I'm bad at drawing and I'm bad at coming up with it. Supposedly we have someone in the family or my extended family who's supposedly good at that stuff. So we're going to see about them doing it and putting it on their thing for t-shirts. The Department of Defense runs 25 biolabs in Asia and Africa. You know what's wild about that? We prop up all these dictators around the world. And mainstream media screams and howls, "Oh my God! He's meeting a dictator!" And it's like, but this was Obama meeting a dictator. And this was John Kerry meeting a dictator. And there's Obama again meeting a dictator. And these guys chop off heads and hands. And there was no issue with this. Alright, so yes. Or Missy is going to be quick. That's another really good one. This is only going to take a second. This would just be a minute. And on the back of the t-shirt, you have like 3 hours later. Yeah, it was fucking hilarious. United States is committing human rights abuses, extrajudicial killings when police kill unarmed African American people. Well, look, even beyond that, I mean, we were renditioning people and taking them to black sites. The person who's ahead of our CIA right now was breaking and ripping apart other human beings. There is a criminal charge on her that if she steps foot into Europe, she could be prosecuted for for war crimes. That's who's heading our CIA. That's a newsflash on what America is today. It's laughable that they make this argument about Trump on this. You can hit Trump in all sorts of ways. This isn't one of them. This is not one of them. Kim knows what the Gaddafi rule is. Yes, he does. Don't give up your nukes. Yes, he does. Yes, he does. Peter version 1. And petrodollar is why we don't talk about the other dictatorships. Yeah, but here's the thing. That wouldn't be so bad if we just honestly admitted that our media organizations are state media. There would be no issue. The state media doesn't talk about those things because the state media is associated with the state. Fair enough. But the United States media bristles at that. Oh, we're not state media. We have full control over what we say and do. And as Noam Chomsky kind of makes his point, but what do you actually say? What do you actually say? Not to mention what you don't say. NMX said, what happened to Rodman? I didn't think anything happened to Rodman. Let's see. Rodman was in this as one of the winners and the losers. Washington Post gets on my goddamn nerves, so I don't necessarily like to use Washington Post. But let's see. Long mocked for his naive infatuation with North Korea, the Hall of Fame basketball star traveled in Singapore and was legitimized like never before. What do you mean he was legitimized? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Who wrote this? Callum Borchers. You're an idiot. You're an outright, unvarnished idiot. What do you mean? What do you mean he's legitimized? At which point was Dennis Rodman not legitimized? He's a person. He has a particular point of view. You may not necessarily like his point of view, but that doesn't delegitimize him. Fucking idiot. Rodman made an appearance on CNN coverage of the summit, said the White House has called to thank him for his past overtures to Kim. Rodman, CNN anchors Chris Cuomo told viewers, is our best resource right now for understanding the minds of the two men, especially Kim Jong-un, as weird as that is to say. I agree, lying James Clapper Jr., the former director of the National Intelligence that lied to Congress. So yeah, there's that. A bunch of spooks sitting on CNN who lied to Congress is perfectly legitimized. But Dennis Rodman, for some reason, needs to be legitimized by apparently CNN. As if CNN has some level of legitimacy. Only in their own minds. If you talk to the overwhelming majority of the population, the media, be it print or be it news like CNN, MSNBC, have such a low regard in the public's opinion. Does low regard in the public opinion delegitimize somebody? It should. It utterly should. In this case, CNN and Washington Post will be top on that list. Dennis Rodman's t-shirt, Potcoin, has sponsored all his trips to North Korea. Notice Dennis Rodman's t-shirt's Potcoin. He has a Potcoin t-shirt. I don't know what that means. James Jimmy the Clapper. Or James Lying the Congress Clapper. I am solid. So President Moon and Chairman Un both gave Trump for his historical summit. Suck it, mainstream media. Suck it is right, mainstream media. They hated this. They hated this. They try to hit him in the knees in one situation after the next. They released, the intelligence community released information saying that he wasn't going to get rid of his nukes. Now, the reason they did this is because Donald Trump went talking about he was going to get him to get rid of his nukes with this hit him in the knees saying, hey, he said he's not going to do this, so your trip is going to be nonsensical and pointless. Donald Trump went anyway. Good on Trump. Now, I have 1,000 other issues I could hit Trump on. This isn't one of them. This is not one of them. Carson J. I guess Jamal won't bring up how Trump made an enemy out of Canada. Oh. Look, there are certain trade things that some of those nations take issue with, dealing with trade. I don't know the particulars in each and every one of those things. The investor-state dispute settlement, I agree with Trump on, oddly enough, but so does Sanders, and so does Elizabeth Warren. I don't particularly like how Trump... Look, Trump is gross. And he has this tendency to be gross in public and gross towards everyone else. I've made one issue after the next that are allies versus people who are making our enemies. So, our allies in the West, Canada, Germany, might as well say Europe, he's pissing them off. I don't think he should piss them off. I think that's horrid. I don't think you have any videos where I come out saying that's an awesome fucking thing that Donald Trump is doing that. In fact, I think if anything, I kind of make this point of look at our allies versus look at our enemies. You know, we have terrorist states as our allies, but we had terrorist states as our allies before. We were just able to get along better with our friends. So now it seems like the terrorist states to which we've accompanied ourselves with, be it Israel, be it Saudi Arabia, be it the terrorists themselves who are essentially going after those states, yeah, it's a problem. I don't like it. I don't like it. It's an issue. Canada can suck it. Your screen name is amazing. I don't think Canada can suck it. I don't want Canada to suck it, if that makes sense. Nor do I want Donald Trump being antagonistic either to Canada or Europe. But the investor state dispute settlement, Donald Trump wants an opt-out clause for that part of NAFTA, making the argument that it goes contrary to our interests. Donald Trump is right. It's an issue of U.S. sovereignty. Now, some people may not like that. Some people may say everything that comes from Donald Trump is bad and horrible and everything else. I would agree with you 90% of the time. This is not one of those times. Should he be pissing off Trudeau? I don't necessarily like it. I don't like them being assholes to one another. Nor do I like him being a dick to Europe. I don't like him pulling out of the nuclear deal. I don't like him pulling out of the climate deal. So don't try to tie me with the horrible shit that Donald Trump does from the standpoint of our neighbors. But, capital B-U-T, we're not talking about that. We're talking about the President of the United States making an overture to peace to another leader of a country to which he had been overtly antagonistic towards. Trudeau will get over it. We're not going to go to war with Canada. Canada wouldn't want that. Canada would get fucked up. So Canada wouldn't want it. And regardless of the shit that takes place between Donald Trump and Trudeau, there's no chance of a conflict between the two nations. Nor is there a chance of a conflict with Europe. It's like, hey, what about Europe? Yeah, it's fucked up the way he acts towards Europe. But that's not what we're talking about. That's not what we're talking about. People say Trump would never be president. Famous last words. So are you really making the argument that Donald Trump may go to war with Canada? Listen to what you're saying. Donald Trump may take the United States to war with Canada. That's nonsense. That's nonsense. That's nonsense on steroids. Come on. Come on. That's nonsense. Grant Jarvis, point by point, with any polly, what is bad, condemn, what is good, support. Yeah. It's called being honest. It's called being honest. Baltazar, Jamal, I'm going to keep this short, Thomas. If we keep it up, we'll get a video of Progressive Voice calling Jamal out and call-ins from Corbin on the Thompson sidebar. Oh, Jay Carson, Trump being president was nonsense. I didn't think Trump being president was nonsense. I didn't think Trump being president was nonsense. Now, I thought the Hillary supporters who didn't think he could win was nonsense. I thought Huffington Post saying Hillary Clinton had a 98% chance of winning and Trump had 2. I thought that was nonsense. I thought the Hillary supporters who looked at the map saying that Hillary was going to win by 300 votes, electoral votes, I thought that was nonsense. Trump being president? No. Trump going to war with Canada? That's nonsense. Is Trump right about Canadian tariffs? Well, that part I lose him on. So, look, I don't know the intricacies of each and everything that's going on from the standpoint of trade and the conflict. I was very specific to investor state dispute settlements because that was something specific that I knew dealing with the Trans-Pacific Partnership that I hated, that I utterly hated, that was utterly contemptible, that allows multinational corporations to sue our government. It's fucking insane. To allow corporations to undercut the U.S. law is a fail. Utter fail. I don't care what utter fail. Multinational corporations cannot exceed the power of the United States government or any nation state. That's an utter fail. It's either we the people or it's the corporations. I prefer us. As for tariffs, look, Canada can do what it wants for its own policy. It's up to Canada. In the same way it's up to us. I don't trust. Trump lies through his teeth flagrantly. And Trump is also a right-winger. So you always have to take that stuff with salt when he's saying something. I don't know about the tariffs. I don't know enough about the tariffs. Jamal, I live in Seattle and the city is voting today to repeal the tax. Yes. TJ Yates. I asked what's her name to come on the show. God damn it, my video's going down. Come on, 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 come on. Alright, I don't know what's going on with this. My signal is getting wobbly. There we go, it's coming back. And it's out again. Yeah, my signal is getting wobbly, so I'm going to end this before it cuts out completely. Damn. Come on, 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 come on. Alright, my signal is getting wobbly, so I'm going to end this, and I'm going to check my signal, see what's going on with the router. Come on. Alright, there we go. Yeah, my signal is getting weird, guys. So, I don't know how much of this is going to get through. So, I'm just going to end this here. If you enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. You can always support through Patreon. And it seems the signal is back. Oh, we're back. We're back. We're back. We're back. My signal just went out for a moment. Look, yeah. So the thing is taking place in Seattle, Washington today. They passed the bill to put the Amazon tax. It was a tax on Amazon, Starbucks, essentially these multi-million-dollar, massive business that are doing it extraordinarily well. They were able to get it passed, and I said the day that it was passed, or maybe not the day it was passed, the day I did the story, I said, this is awesome. Shama Shawant and her supporters have done an awesome job, but any deal that's passed, plutocrats tend to try to claw back the gains. And what do you know? Plutocrats are clawing back the gains. They're voting on it today at noon. Well, it is noon, but they're voting on it today in order to claw back those gains. So she said they didn't even alert her to the fact that it was taking place. Why would they alert you to the fact that it's taking place? The whole point of it is to sneak up on you and kind of hit you over the head. Well, they've snuck up on her and hit her over the head. Jamal, these spooks are behind you. I know, right? It's like at a certain point, it's like, oh, kill the feed, kill the feed. That shopping video was like the Home Shopping Network in the 90s. Yeah. You know, they still got that going on, right? The Home Shopping Network. I think it's still going. What did Rob say that got it retracted? I don't know. What did Rob say? I mean, I didn't retract anything. They might have did it automatically. I don't see what Rob said that got anything retracted. Yeah, I don't see it. Yeah, I don't see anything, man. How's Sam Ronan doing? So I sent Sam Ronan an email. The only email address I have for Sam Ronan was when he was running for Congress. I don't necessarily know if that email address is still up. I was told that his Facebook page was down, so there's that. I don't have his phone number, so I can't necessarily call him. I don't know. I sent him an email just saying, hey dude, are you okay? I'm just calling in to check on you. He was nice enough to come on to the show. I always feel like when people come on to the show, there's like a relationship there. Yeah, I don't know. I hope he's okay. I hope he's okay. Come to New York or Denver and I'll cover your mojitos. Baltazar. Oh, God. Oh, God. Or Denver. All right, Rob, I'm going to take you up on that. If I'm in Denver or New York, Rob is covering my mojitos. I'm writing that down, Rob. I'm writing it down. This is slightly joking me because I got wasted on mojitos when I was at the Left Forum. And it was like incapacitated for the day. That was the worst hangover that I think I've had in God knows how long. Yeah, that was a horrible hangover. I mean, I'm sorry, Baltazar. I'm taking you up on that, Baltazar, if I'm in the area. Not Rob. I'm sorry. Net neutrality doesn't control YouTube, Google, Twitter from censoring freedom of speech. Just the ISPs. We need internet. Yeah, but you're gonna understand, like the suppression from those companies is bad enough. You've added now the ISPs on top of it. looks like Google and fake. To me, this puts me in the mind of like Google complaining about censorship. It's kind of like a Hillary supporter complaining about cheating by Russians, if that makes sense. It's like, come on. But the Drunk Jamal live stream was fucking gold, man. TJ Yakes. I was tipsy. I was just tipsy. We need to raise some funds for Sam Ronan and Cheryl Brandon. I don't know what's going on with Sam Ronan. I don't know if Sam Ronan is in bad straits. Cuba has the best mojitos. Cheryl, I tried to go to Cuba. So I book tickets anywhere when I find a cheap airplane ticket. And it's funny, people were like, why did you get married in Iceland? It's like, because it was there. He's like, why did you go to Norway? Because it was fucking there. That's the only reason I need. Hey, if there's a place on the map, let's go. Is there a war going on? No. Let's go. If I find a good ticket, I'm gone. The one for Oslo, Norway was awesome. That trip was like $400 to Norway. Think about that shit. Just $400 for airline ticket. It is more expensive almost to get from Richmond to like San Francisco than it was to go to like Norway. Our tickets here in the United States are so expensive. My wife and I are planning on this trip to just kind of go around the world. Once we get out of the United States, it becomes far, far cheaper to travel. So it's like enough money from the standpoint of 2 big ticket costs. One for an emergency leave if you need to leave in an emergency. One in order to get there. I don't want to have to sell my body in order to get a ticket back home, like in Bangkok. It's like, you can grab my ass for $10. I need to get a ticket back home to America. So I kind of want to avoid that. But once you're over there, like a train ticket from point A to point B, it's kind of easy. If you ever go to Cuba, you need to walk with Canadian dollars. Havana is a great city. I wanted to go to what is it called? It's where they did the tequila and the Bacardi, if that makes sense. I can't think of the name of it. It's Havana. I wanted to go to Havana. That's where I wanted to go, Havana. Are you familiar with MCSC Nico? I am familiar with Nico House. Yeah, I've met him once. Just informed. Croquets, Cubanos, and mojitos. Cubanos and mojitos. One of my, it's funny. How we process the world. God damn it, this is going long. How we process the world is an odd and interesting thing. And I know that sounds weird in the way I'm saying it. In my head, I have this idea and this feeling associated with it. I'm having a hard time processing it. You can look at a picture, and let's say it's somebody who's sitting on the edge of a cliff, and they're just kind of standing there looking in this kind of pondering way. And then you look at that, and you're like, man, that's so fucking epic. I mean, they're just looking over the cliff, and they're just looking down at they're processing the world. They're just so present. They're just so aware. And if you go into the head of the person may be like, I need to fart. Like, it's this difference between how you perceive it versus how it is when you're there in the moment. Every so often, though, those things coincide. One of those coinciding moments for me was in Paris, under the Eiffel Tower, eating, what is it called? A crawdon something. It's like a ham and cheese sandwich. It's a fancy name for a ham and cheese sandwich in France. Sipping an espresso. Now, if I would have seen that picture, and I've seen pictures similar to that, I would have been like, oh my God, that's so fucking epic. And then when you're there and you're doing it, you're like, this feels kind of fucking epic. Now, by the same token, there have been times where it's like you're on a camel in Egypt, and while you're kind of aware that there's a certain amount of epicness built into this, you're also thinking to yourself, fuck, it is so hot, and they never clean this shit up from these goddamn camels. It's so weird, so bizarre. Forget alcohol, no hangover in Seattle, visit, I'm in cannabis industry, top shelf bud on me, visit Vancouver. Yo, cynical optimist, I want to speak to you about the cannabis industry. Send me an email, please. Send me an email. And yeah, I don't like the hangovers from thing. I prefer to drink as to smoke my liquor. Agreed. Jamal Tour 2019 because Progressive Voice has the Axis Paris. Oh, dude, you guys are wrong. You guys are so wrong. You guys are so wrong. Havana. Oh, nah. TJ Yates, Fred Edwards. $10 ass grab. Jamal Thomas fundraising. Yes, you got to do what you got to do, man. You're going to be stuck for a long time for $10. Well, yeah, Rob, but I can't. How much can I charge? How much can I charge? And I know somebody's going to be like, yeah, dude, you're undercutting the value of an ass grab. Fair enough. Fair enough. An October Revolution. You're going to be the last one. I'm in RVA and planning a trip to Cuba. Group rates. No shit. Are you serious? I guess with a name like October Revolution. Let me ask you this: for the trip to God, we're getting in the weeds. I know the rule in order to go to Cuba, there has to be some kind of. It has to be for something else, like it has to be for education of the Cubans or something to that effect that allows you to go. But you do good drunk vids. I wasn't drunk, but fair enough. Fair enough. I was tipsy. Fair enough. Alright guys, I'm going to end this here because this has gone all over the goddamn place. But like I said, I know that a lot of people push me for my vids and kind of make this point like, dude, your videos are too long, your videos are too long, your videos are too long. It's not that my videos are long. My videos start off maybe like 10-15 minutes. What ends up being long is just me interacting with my audience. I interact with my audience because there are going to be times where I say things where my audience is like, you're a fucking asshole and I want to take the piss out of you. And I guess you could say this is meet me out back. Just saying. Now, for the other part of my audience who just likes to talk, I like to engage my audience. So for all of the newbies who are like, oh my God, this video has gone off and gone in the rails. That's kind of how my videos go. The first few minutes are organized to a specific point, but at a certain point, I just engage with my audience. I may cut the video just from, a certain part. Sometimes I don't feel like it. I just say fuck it and leave it. But these are my vids, man. I like engaging with my audience. All right, so I'm going to end this. TJ Gates, thanks, man. Are you going to be doing any more vids? Yeah, I am. I have another one after this. Make them as long as you can, man. That's the best part. Nah, I can't be that long because otherwise I wouldn't be able to get to other topics. But no, I have another topic. Rokana. Justice Democrat Rokana. Guess who Rokana is supporting in New York? So, Okesana, or whatever her name is, she's running as the Justice Democrat in New York. She's been creating a pretty large splash. She even has a video with Glenn Greenwald. I'm pronouncing her name poorly, so forgive me. I'm not trying to be racist. Just fucking her name up. I see a back and forth with somebody who's kind of like making this point to Rokana, like, Rokana is not supporting another Justice Democrat that's in a race. Like, what? No way. No way. That can't be true. That can't be true. And so I started researching it. But first thing I do in the morning, I started looking for stories. And I see that, and I'm like, okay, is there anything else to back up what this person is saying? And then I see Rokana himself on Twitter backing up Crowley, some corporatist Democrat. And Rokana is trying to explain himself on why the person who's in the race, who's not taking PAC money, who's also a Justice Democrat, is not getting the support of somebody who is supposedly a Justice Democrat. I think that's an interesting story. That is going to be next. So, spell people's name out if you're worried about mispronouncing. Even then, you can fuck up a name. It's like Okesa or something like that, or Okasaya, or Okasayo, or something like that. Crowley said she was bringing race into the race. I guess that's not a pun. That's just, yeah, that's not a pun. That's just two words that are spelled the same in the English language that have different meanings. Look, Democrats have a tendency to focus heavily on identity. If you have somebody who's in the race who's Hispanic or black or gay or transgender or Martian, they're going to use the fact that they're black, gay, transgender, or Martian in order to garner votes from a particular demographic. That is Democratic Strategy 101. In Hillary's case, she could call a person sexist, homophobic, or racist. In this case, I don't necessarily think that's necessarily where she's going with it, but she probably is using her heritage as part of her basis for running the race. I would imagine that if you don't necessarily have heritage in your back pocket, that could be somewhat of a pain in the ass to deal with. That being said, voting for her has nothing to do with who she is. It has to do with what she's pushing. So, this is in the weeds. I'm making this point that you have a Justice Democrat that's not supporting another Justice Democrat. There is a Change.org petition telling Rokana to be stripped of his Justice Democrat status because he's not supporting the Justice Democrat. I'm fascinated by this. So I'm going to do that story, and that's what I want to talk about after this one. So I'm going to end this here. Thank everyone for your support for the channel. Beltazar, Peter Version 1, Rob Illinois, Cynical Optimist, please send me an email. Please send me an email. Merced, Callie, Anamaxa. Why do I know that name? I think there's an anime movie named Anamaxa or something to that effect. I could be wrong. Peter Version 1, Merced, Callie. Guys, thank you very much. I appreciate your help for the show. I will see you guys probably in the next 10 minutes or so. I just need to queue up, and I need this one to essentially process before I can go to the next one. Thanks, guys.